Today we're in section 9.1, page 415 in your books. You will need to be in your books for example 4 and reading along with me. So go ahead and get out your books now. If you haven't already, turn to section 9.1. All right, in example 1, we're writing the percent as a fraction. All right, and anytime we have a percentage, it's always going to be out of 100. So if I said it looks like it's going to be a 90% chance of rain today, well, 90% out of what? 100. Out of 100. Percentages are always out of 100. So in order to write a percent as a fraction, I simply put it over 100. 37 over 100. And then I ask myself if I can reduce. Can I reduce 37 over 100? No, so that's my final answer. All right, go ahead and do B.
That's hard.
Okay, so how would I write 50% as a fraction? 50 over 100, which is 1/2. Okay, so I just reduce it to 1/2. All right, that's the first section of your homework tonight, just to write the percent as a fraction in simplest form. Now, in example 2, I'm writing a fraction as a percent, and here's the goal. Now, I just said back in example 1 that a percent is always out of what? 100. It's always out of 100. So I need to get these fractions to have a denominator of 100. Now, in this section, all of my denominators are going to go evenly into 100. What I need to figure out is how many times. So I can work backwards and I can divide. 100 divided by whatever my denominator is. And what is it going to be here?
80 over
It's going to be, yes, 80 over 100, but I multiply top and bottom by 20. You have to make sure that you show me what you're multiplying top and bottom by. And you get 80 over 100, and then, yes, 80 over 100 gives you that 80%, and that's going to be your answer. Okay? So I want to see what you're multiplying by. I want to see that fraction, and then change it to a percent. All right, go ahead and try to do B. What did you multiply by, top and bottom? 25, very good, because how do I get from 4 to 100? I multiply top and bottom by 25. I get 75 over 100, which is what percent? 75%. All right, who got it right? Okay, awesome. So we're through example 2. Now in example 3, I'm going to teach you a different way than the way that your book teaches you. Your book teaches you to change the percent to a fraction and then multiply. I just feel like that's an unnecessary and difficult way. And so I'm actually going to teach you the way that we'll learn in section 9.3 anyways, okay? It's basically like when we learned how to do proportions. How many different ways were there to solve proportions? 3. Well, there's 2 ways that you can actually find 60% of 75, and I'm just going to teach you the easier way, okay? All right, so here's what we do. Now, we've said several times this lesson, a percentage is always out of what? It's always out of 100. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean division or multiplication? It means division. So what I want you to see, I want you to be able to see this for yourself in your calculators. Go ahead and divide 60 divided by 100 in your calculators and change it to a decimal. Okay, what'd you get? 0.6. Okay, so you got 0.6. All right, so here's what happens when you change a percent to a decimal. I wanted you to see basically the reasoning behind it, but you're moving your decimal to the left 2 places because you're dividing by 100. So it's always going to be, when you change a percent to a decimal, that you move your decimal left 2 places. Why do you move it left? Because you're dividing. You're making the number smaller. All right, so I have 6/10 times 75. And then that will give me my answer. Go ahead and work it out. All right, so what'd you get for A?
45.
All right, very good. You got 45. All right, so now let's solve B and C the same way. Change the percent to a decimal and multiply by the total. All right, so before I can find the percent of 90, what do I need to do to my percentage? Convert it to a decimal. So what is 35% as a decimal?
0.
Very good, 0.35. Okay, and then I multiply by 90, and what do I get? 31.5. All right, very good. Now on C, what do I change 40% to? 0.4. Multiply that by 150, and what do I get? 60. Who got them right? Awesome. Okay, so now we're through example 3. Now we just have one more example to do, and now I want you to look in your books with me on page 415. On page 415 on the top gives us a real-world example. It says in October of 2001, 16 of the top 100 women's tennis players were from the U.S. Well, can I make that into a fraction? Yes. Yeah, 16 out of 100. Okay, so that's important. 16 out of 100 were from the U.S. Now let's see what it's asking us to solve for. What percent of the players were not from the U.S.? Okay, well, if 16 out of 100 were from the U.S., what percentage is that? 16%. Very good. That's going to be 16%. So if I know that 16% were from the U.S., how could I figure out how many were not? Very good. Subtract it from 100. I know that the two together are going to equal 100. So 100% minus 16% gives us 84%. And just make sure you label not from U.S. Okay? And this is just like number 40 on your homework tonight. So, all right, guys. If you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 9.1.